Hello and welcome. I'm Arumba. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a guide to how to change culture within Crusader Kings 2, both on a county level and also on a character level. So we've got two minor subtopics to this. So first, let's talk about character culture. Every character in the game is going to have a certain culture, and their culture is going to be broken up into two components. You've got the actual name of the culture and the culture group. Culture groups are better if you have, like, let's say I've got an area here with all people from the same culture group. They're going to like each other a little bit better than an area that is from a completely different culture group. So, for example, I've selected the King Garcia of Galicia here, and when you start off as this start, you're king, and you have a duke below you, the Duke of Portugal. What's interesting about the start is that you are Castilian. That is an Iberian culture group. Your duke is Portuguese, which is also an Iberian culture group, but you'll notice Portuguese and Castilian are two totally different things. So let's talk about the penalties you're going to run into from having different cultures. He is going to have a -8 opinion of you in this circumstance, this specific character, because there is a -10 penalty for foreigners within the same culture group, and a -20 penalty for foreigners who are within separate culture groups. Now you're probably thinking, well, hold on, why is it -8 then? Well, you've also got to factor in county technology. And the way this works is you have to look at your cultural technology level, and always be aware that only the technology in your capital matters for the culture column. So, for instance, if I've got cultural flexibility at level 1 here in Corunna, which is my capital, that is going to reduce the opinion penalty by -10%. So it's going to reduce the actual effects of that foreigner penalty. As this increases, it reduces it by increasing amounts. Now, I will admit there's some funny math going on, and I've actually got it posted in the Crusader Kings 2 forum because I think it's a bug. I've got level 1 cultural flexibility that's -10%, and yet our good friend the Duke here has a -8 opinion, which doesn't make sense. If it's 10 minus 10%, everywhere I've done math, that would be 9. But somehow it's 8, so in general, the more technology you have, the less the penalty will be. So that's how that penalty is calculated. Now let's talk about how you can change culture on a character level. Now, there's really only two ways that it can happen. One is if your vassal just wants to convert to your culture, he will have an event, a decision rather, that he can just choose to convert to your culture. You can't force him to do it like you can with a religious, demand him to convert to your religion. But if he wants to, he can just convert to your religion at any point. So, there's always that. The second way you can convert is that you can basically say, okay, I've already lost my chance with this character, but let's try to convert his kids. As long as he has a child who is between the ages of 6 and 15, you have the ability to request a guardianship of that child. You can go to Educate Child, put his kid in, let's assume he had one, and then I can request that some Castilian like myself, assuming this was his child, that I could educate him. Now, he might not let you in every case, but whenever possible, you can try to get that child educated by somebody of the proper culture. And the guardian is very likely to convert their culture to their own. There's a few traits that the guardian can have that will enhance their likelihood of converting their culture. Those would be diligent and gregarious. A diligent and gregarious, both trait guardian is very, very likely to convert the child. There are also a couple traits that will reduce the likelihood, which are shy and slothful. So in general, if you're trying to convert someone's character's culture, try to get diligent and gregarious, correct culture, and correct religion, ideally, guardians for your kids. So that covers the character level of culture. Now we have to talk about county level. So now let's take a look at this. Again, I am Castilian. This county is Portuguese. And the way you have to think about this is basically it's like the indigenous people of this county are Portuguese, and I am their ruler who is Castilian. I'm new to the area. So they're not going to like me very much, which is going to increase the revolt risk. Different culture at 0.5%. It would be much higher if it was a different culture group. It would actually be higher. I think it's about 1% penalty in that case. So how do you convert culture on a county level? Well, there's two events that can happen. One event requires direct adjacency to a matching culture county. So let's take a look at the culture map mode. The shortcut key is T, or you can go over here and click the cultures button. What you'll notice is that we've got some solid areas and we've got some kind of dashed lines areas. These solid areas let you know that the ruler of this territory is the same culture as the county. And then you can see also by color and by hovering over it here, right around here you can see Castilian Iberian. So if I click on Leon, we can see that my brother rules it. He is Castilian and the county culture is Castilian. These dashed areas let you know that there's a mismatch. And you can actually tell which way the mismatch is going based on whether the dashes are this color or the dashes are this color, for instance. So from just looking at this, we can tell that, okay, the dashes are the same color here as Iberian, the Castilian color, so we can tell that it's Portuguese and it's slowly being, or in the process of being converted to Iberian. Or excuse me, Castilian. So, one of the events requires you to have the same culture as a nearby adjacent county, and ideally you need to have high stewardship. It's very important that you have at least, say, 10 stewardship, ideally 13 plus. Now right over here on the right side of the screen, I'm going to put an annotation in just a moment, so make sure that you have your annotations enabled. That's going to show you all of the different mean time to happen conversion chances based on your character's culture. Now, in a previous video, I was showing how religious warfare worked, and one of the reasons why we were delegating out individual titles with high culture or high stewardship characters is because that event is it's per character. It's a character event, not a county event, meaning that one character can only experience the event every so often. So the more characters you have, the more likely that event's to pop for multiple people. You don't want to have one character with 6 counties because it's going to take him 6 times as long to convert it all. So because this county here, for example, borders Asturias de Oviedo, which is Castilian, this has the chance of converting to Castilian. And it's always going to convert in the direction of the leader. There's also an event that can pop in the opposite direction where I could potentially accept Portuguese as my culture. Just basically say, yeah, I want to be Portuguese. So that's one of the ways that you can convert culture. So make sure you have high stewardship characters that have individual counties so they all have a likelihood of popping that event. The second way that you can convert by culture in a county level is if you have a differing religion from there's a difference between your character and the county's religion. So in this case that wouldn't work because the county religion is Catholic and I'm Catholic. But for example, if I conquer, say, down here and there's a Sunni and it's also a different culture, even though there's no directly adjacent counties, I still have an event that can pop. It's called Bring in the Settlers or something to that nature. And that can convert it directly from whatever it is to my culture. This can be used to convert religions and cultures on islands. Naturally, islands have no directly adjacent cultures, so it's difficult to convert the Irish, Scottish, and Saxon, for example. Or if you're really ambitious, trying to convert Norway and these counties up here in Iceland, trying to convert those to a different culture is very challenging. The only way you can really do it is by having a heresy appear and have that heresy take over as the primary religion, and then somehow manage to conquest it yourself, and then hope that the culture event fires before the religion converts. And religious conversion is generally faster than culture conversion. So that's basically how culture conversion works. Be very cautious when you're dealing with culture, because take a large realm like, say, the Holy Roman Emperor. Look at all these different cultures he's got to deal with. He's got Italy, the Dutch, the Pomeranians, the Bohemians, some Occitan here on the southwest. And so One of the reasons why the very beginning of the game, the Holy Roman Emperor always has so many problems with, say, the Duchess of Tuscany declaring independence, is that she's Italian and he's German. Right? German is the Central Germanic culture group, and Italian is the Latin culture group. So they are complete foreigners. It's no different than if he was in charge of, say, the Andalusians. Now, thankfully, they're the same religion, at least, but it's very difficult to manage large tracts of lands with different cultures. Now, if you spread your culture all across, you'll have a much more stable realm, and oftentimes the best way to do that is to just be really, really evil. Be very aggressive. Like, if I'm playing as Galicia here as an example, this character's never going to want his counties to change from Portuguese. It's not going to happen. So, I've got a few choices. I could, number one, just revoke his county outright. You need at least low crown authority to do that. But if I were to revoke his county, I'd suffer a small amount of tyranny, -20, but always keep in mind, tyranny only lasts for 10 years. Would you rather have a -20 opinion modifier for 10 years, or a -20 opinion modifier forever, because you have the wrong culture? So just keep that in mind. Sometimes you're better off doing evil things in the short term in order to have a more stable realm in the long term. Oftentimes I'll have one character who's a complete bastard, has negative opinion with people, just barely holds the realm together, so that his heir can have a more powerful, stable realm. And you kind of alternate back and forth between the two playstyles. So that's my guide to culture conversion. If you found value in it, hopefully you'll come back and watch some other videos. In the link over here on the side, I'm going to put some links to some other descriptions and other videos that you can watch if you're interested. And thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you again in the next video. See you soon.